Nobody noticed the old man at first. The world moved fast. Too fast for someone like him. Cars rushed by, people pushed through the sidewalks, everyone busy with their own lives. But the old man kept walking, slow and steady, like a soldier on one last mission. His name was Mr. Harris, a Vietnam War veteran. His steps were weak, yet each step held a story. His deep, tired eyes showed pain that no one else could understand. He wore a faded Marine cap, its colors almost gone, but its pride still shining. His jacket looked old, but it was the only thing that kept him warm, and reminded him of who he once was, a protector of the nation. He paused in front of a gun store, Patriot Guns and Gear. The door was tall, glass shining under sunlight. Inside, he could see rifles on the wall, ammo in the cases, young men laughing and showing off. Harris closed his eyes for a moment and took a long breath. Today, he had a purpose. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal piece, rusty, damaged. The last piece of the rifle that saved his life years ago. He wasn't there to brag. He wasn't asking for honor. He just needed a simple part to repair the gun that stood by his side through death and fire. He pushed the door. A bell rang ding-dong as he stepped inside. Instant silence. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. Young men in camo jackets stared at him. Some curious, some annoyed. Harris walked gently to the counter. The young employee behind it, a tall guy with hair gel and fancy shoes, looked at him like he didn't belong there. Sir, can I help you?" he said with a fake smile. Harris placed the metal piece on the counter. It made a small clink sound. "I'm looking for a part for my rifle," Harris said softly. "It is old, but it's important to me." The employee picked it up, squinted, then smirked. "This thing?" He raised it for others to see. "Looks like something from a museum." The group of employees nearby laughed. Harris didn't react. He had been judged before. He had heard worse, far worse, on battlefields. But this time, something hurt deeper. These were the very people he fought to protect. The tall employee leaned close and whispered loudly enough for others to hear. "We don't sell junk parts for junk weapons. Grandpa!" The store erupted in laughter. Harris kept silent. His fingers trembled as he tried to stay calm. His heart wasn't afraid, just tired. Tired of being forgotten. One employee, the youngest of them all, didn't laugh. He stared at Harris's Marine cap. Something in his heart shifted. He stepped forward. "Sir, were you in the Marines?" he asked respectfully. "Yes," Harris replied. "A long time ago," the tall employee interrupted, rolling his eyes. "Oh, please. Every old guy claims he was something great." The others laughed again, louder this time. The young Marine-looking employee's eyes widened. He couldn't believe the disrespect. He quickly grabbed his phone and pressed record without anyone noticing. His voice shook a little. "What unit were you in, sir?" he asked again. Harris hesitated. Memories flashed. Brothers he lost, battles he survived. He spoke quietly. "First Marine Recon. Vietnam." Silence. The young employee's mouth opened in surprise. That was no normal veteran. That was a legend, but the others stayed blind. They didn't see a hero. They just saw an old man who moved too slow and spoke too soft. "Listen," the tall employee said, pushing the metal part back into Harris's hand. "This store is for real shooters, not for old men who shake like broken engines." More laughter. One guy even pointed at Harris's hands, mocking how they trembled slightly. Harris's eyes watered, not from fear, but from humiliation. He turned around slowly, trying to leave the store with dignity, but the tall employee shouted again, "And don't come back with that museum trash. Try a nursing home instead." A loud chorus of laughter followed. Harris's foot paused near the door. For a moment, he wanted to turn and shout. Remind them who he was. Tell them about nights under gunfire, about friends who died fighting so these children could mock an old soldier today. But what would it change? Their hearts didn't know respect. He stepped outside. Head low, hope fading. But what he didn't know, the young employee who recorded the scene was already sending the video to his Marine friends. He typed one message. "This veteran needs us." Phones all over the area started buzzing. Former Marines. Active duty Marines. Veterans with scars still fresh. They watched the video, and their blood began to boil. No one disrespects our brother. We stand together. Where is this shop? Engines started roaring. Boots hit the ground. Vehicles rolled out. Marine Corps was on their way. Inside the shop, laughter faded. Something felt wrong. Something in the air shifted. Even the tall employee felt a chill creeping up his spine. The young Marine employee looked out the store window. His eyes widened. "Oh no," he whispered, in the distance. Dozens of Marines were marching toward them, strong, silent, furious, and at the front. A commander with medals shining in the sun. The Marines were coming for their brother. The battle was just beginning. The video spread faster than anyone expected. In just minutes, dozens of Marines watched the clip of Mr. Harris being mocked. Every Marine who saw it felt the same fire inside. Their blood heated with anger. Their jaws clenched. Their hearts refused to stay silent. No one disrespects a Marine veteran. Not on their watch, phones began buzzing. Messages flashed. "Gear up. Get the address. We move now. For our brother." Some were active duty Marines. Some were veterans who had retired long ago, but still carried the spirit inside. Some were high-ranking officers who didn't usually get involved in small matters, but this wasn't small. This was about honor. This was about family. The young Marine who recorded the incident stood by the store window. His hands were shaking, not in fear, but in excitement. He had seen Marines respond before, but never this fast. In the parking lot outside, the wind picked up dust. A storm was coming. Not the kind that brings rain, the kind that brings justice. Inside the shop, the tall employee continued joking with his friends. "Did you see the way he walked? Like he's about to fall apart." He laughed loudly. More chuckles followed, but the laughter died suddenly when they all felt a low, heavy rumble. It was faint like thunder far away. The window shook slightly. "What was that?" one of them asked. The tall employee shrugged. Probably a truck passing, but the rumble grew louder. Rah, rah. The youngest employee's eyes widened as he looked outside. This wasn't one truck. This wasn't even two. This was an army. Down the road, Marine vehicles appeared in long lines. Black SUVs, motorcycles, trucks draped with banners of the Corps, flags waving proudly, uniforms sharp. Boots hitting the ground in perfect rhythm. Customers in the shop rushed to the windows. "What the? Is there a parade today?" Someone whispered. No one answered. More vehicles arrived. Cars slammed to a halt. Marines jumped out, big, tough, fearless. Some still in training gear. Some still in full uniform. Some carrying American flags. Some carrying signs saying, "Respect veterans. Once a Marine, always a Marine. You messed with the wrong hero." The tall employee swallowed hard. His cocky smile disappeared. Sweat formed on his forehead. He stepped back slowly. What is happening?" he stuttered. The young Marine walked away from the window and looked him directly in the eyes. "What's happening?" he said. "You woke the Marine Corps." Marines began forming a line outside the shop, a wall of discipline. A line of unbreakable brotherhood. Their boots hit the ground like thunder. Thump! 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 People driving by stopped their cars. Phones came out. Cameras recorded everything. News channels got alerts of a military presence forming downtown. Inside the shop, silence took over. Not a single laugh remained. The tall employee tried to look calm, but fear filled his eyes. His mouth twitched. "This must be a mistake," he said, voice cracking. The young Marine shook his head slowly. "No mistake. They're here for him." "For who?" another employee whispered. "You know who," he replied strongly. "The man you insulted." Outside, the Marines stood like statues, silent, unmovable, unstoppable. No shouting. No threats. Just a strong message through presence. We protect our own. The commander of the formation stepped forward. He was older, with sharp eyes that had seen combat. Medals covered his chest. His voice was deep and commanding. "Bring the veteran out!" The young Marine hurried outside and scanned the street, searching. He spotted Mr. Harris sitting alone on a bench near the corner, his shoulders bent, head low, as if he were trying to disappear. A wave of emotion hit the crowd. People outside gasped. Some began clapping. Some wiped tears away. They didn't know who this old man was, but they could feel his importance. Harris looked around, eyes wide, heart pounding. He had never felt anything like this in years. For a long time, he believed the world had forgotten him. But this was honor returning. The commander stepped toward Harris, standing tall and respectful. "Sir," he said with a salute, "permission to address the store that disrespected you." Harris, overwhelmed, nodded softly. The commander turned toward the glass door of the gun shop. Inside, the tall employee wanted to hide. He tried to slip behind the counter, but Marines had already blocked every exit. He was trapped with his mistake. The commander opened the door, and without shouting, spoke a single line, a line that made every employee freeze. "You insulted a hero who fought for your freedom." The commander's glare was sharp as steel. "We are here to make sure you never forget the cost of the life you take for granted." A Marine behind him added, voice filled with fire, "No one disrespects a Marine, especially one who bled for this country." The tall employee collapsed into a stool, shaking. His arrogance died. His confidence was gone. Now there was only fear and regret. The Marines outside continued to stand firm, a powerful reminder that the brotherhood is stronger than age, stronger than time, stronger than disrespect. Harris watched from the doorway. For the first time in many years, he felt tall again, not because of his body, but because he remembered. He was still a Marine, and Marines never stand alone. The atmosphere outside the gun shop had changed completely. What once looked like a normal day now felt like the center of a battlefield, not with weapons, but with pride, respect, and brotherhood. The Marines stood strong and silent. People gathered around like they were watching history being written. Some held their hands over their hearts. Others whispered, "Who is that old man? He must be something special." They came here just for him? The employees inside could feel every eye outside burning through the glass windows. The tall employee's legs shook so much that he had to sit down. He wished he could disappear. The commander stepped fully inside the store now. His presence alone demanded silence. "You will apologize to the Marine you insulted," he said. The tall employee stuttered. I didn't mean, it was just..." "Respect," the commander interrupted sharply, "is not something you pretend. It comes from the heart." His voice was calm but deadly serious. "Now move." The employee slowly stood up, almost tripping over his own feet. His arrogance had melted away completely. He walked toward the door like a man facing judgment. Outside, the Marines parted, creating a path. At the end of that path stood Mr. Harris, the forgotten warrior, now at the center of attention. The tall employee faced him, shaking uncontrollably. His mouth opened, but the words died in his throat. His voice finally broke free. "Sir, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I didn't know who you were." Harris looked at him. His expression was calm, but his eyes held the weight of years of pain and the strength of survivors. "You don't need to know who a person is," Harris replied softly. "Just treat them with respect." The words were simple, but they hit the employee like a punch to the chest. Tears slipped from his eyes. He had made fun of a hero, a man who once risked his life so he could live freely. But this wasn't over. The commander stepped forward again. "Marine Corps is not only here for a sorry," he said. "We are here for justice." He turned toward the crowd. "This veteran has medals of honor. He earned every breath you take in peace. Yet he was insulted and humiliated in a store that claims to respect the Second Amendment, the same right he fought to protect." The crowd murmured, anger rising. Phones continued recording. Social media was flooding with live videos. The commander motioned to a Marine corporal. "Check their license. Check their business records. If they do not respect veterans, they do not deserve to sell weapons." "Yes, sir." The young corporal saluted and rushed to search information. The tall employee panicked. No, please! Don't shut us down!" "We didn't." The commander raised a single hand and silence fell again. "You only feel sorry when consequences arrive. Where was your respect before you saw us?" The employee lowered his head. He had no answer. Meanwhile, the young Marine who helped Harris earlier stood proudly beside him like a protective guard. Harris whispered to him, voice trembling slightly, "I didn't want all this trouble." The young Marine smiled. "Sir, this is not trouble. This is brotherhood." Harris blinked hard to stop tears. For so long he believed he had walked alone in this world. But today proved he had never been alone. Not for 1 second, because once you are a Marine, you are a Marine forever. The commander turned to Harris. Sir, do you want to press charges? We can file harassment for discrimination against a veteran. Harris looked down at his old boots. He thought for a moment. He remembered war. He remembered friends who never came home. He remembered fighting so that people could live free, even the rude ones. After a long pause, he shook his head slowly. No, I don't want their lives destroyed. I just want respect. The Marines all nodded in agreement. That was the answer of a true hero, but the commander wasn't done. He stepped toward the tall employee again. You will not disrespect another veteran ever again. Clear? The employee nodded fast. Clear, I promise. Good, the commander said. Now fetch the part he asked for. The employee scrambled inside like a frightened rabbit. The entire crowd stared, waiting. After a moment, he returned holding a brand new part, polished, perfect, expensive. Here. Sir, he said, hands shaking as he offered it to Harris. No charge, please. Accept it. Harris took the part gently. It felt like receiving a piece of his past back, but the Marines weren't ready to leave yet. They wanted the world to see what respect looks like. The commander raised his hand. Brothers. Formation. Thump, 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 boots moved. Bodies aligned. The Marines formed a perfect salute line for Harris to walk through. The young Marine whispered proudly, This is all for you. Harris stepped forward slowly. His cane tapped the ground softly. Every Marine he passed saluted. Full pride, full honor, people in the crowd wiped tears. They held flags high. Some placed their hands over their hearts. One little boy shouted, Thank you, soldier. Harris smiled deeply, the kind of smile that comes only from a heart touched by love. When he reached the end of the formation, the commander faced him again. Sir, if you ever need anything. Anything? Call us. Harris nodded. Speechless, the commander saluted strong and loud. For service. For sacrifice. Semper Fi, Marine! Harris returned the salute, hands steady, as if his strength had returned. Semper Fi! He whispered. The Marines cheered, voices shaking the air. Oorah! The ground vibrated with power. The world had just learned a lesson. Never underestimate a veteran. Never judge someone by age. And never forget the Marine brotherhood. Harris stood tall again, not because his back was strong, but because millions of brothers still stood behind him. He walked away with the young Marine beside him like a guardian angel. The story wasn't finished, because justice still had one more step. The tension outside the gun shop was still heavy in the air. Marines stood tall and firm, a wall of loyalty and strength. People had their phones up, still recording every moment. This was not just a small event anymore. This had become a message to the whole world, but something inside Harris still felt unsettled. He had the part he needed. He had the apology. He had the respect returned. But the memory of humiliation still burned in his heart like a fresh wound. He tried to hide it, but the young Marine next to him saw it clearly. Sir, we're not done yet, the young Marine said softly. Harris looked up. What do you mean? Before we leave, the world needs to know who you truly are. He signaled to the commander. The commander stepped forward, addressing the crowd with a powerful voice. This man is not just a veteran. He is a decorated Marine sniper from the 1st Recon. He saved lives. He fought battles you can't even imagine. He is the reason why this country stands free today. Gasps spread through the crowd. People stared at Harris with new eyes full of respect. The commander continued. He never asked for thanks. He never demanded rewards. He only wanted a small part for his rifle, a rifle that protected the lives of his brothers. Harris looked down, humbled, but the commander lifted his chin gently. You taught the world what honor looks like. Today, we teach the world the same. The Marines then did something no one expected. The same. The Marines then did something no one expected. They formed 2 long lines again, but this time with flags raised high. American flags waved in the wind like proud warriors standing guard. The commander pointed to the inside of the shop. Bring his rifle. One Marine rushed in and returned with Harris's old rifle. Cleaned, polished, shining like new. The employees must have quickly wiped it down in fear. When Harris held the rifle again, his hands stopped shaking. He held it like meeting an old friend. The commander saluted him again. Sir, walk with pride. This path is yours. Harris took a slow step. then another. With each step, memories returned, not of pain, but of courage. He remembered nights in jungles. He remembered brothers who stood beside him. He remembered why he fought. Every Marine saluted him as he passed. Every civilian clapped, cheered, or cried. A woman shouted, "You're a hero, sir." A group of teenagers chanted, "USA! USA!" Even the employees watched, ashamed and silent, learning a lesson they would never forget. When Harris reached the end of the line, Marines surrounded him, not closing him in, but protecting him. Like a shield of honor. "You are not alone anymore," the young Marine said. Harris smiled, and for the first time in years, it wasn't a sad smile, it was a smile of pride. The Marines then escorted him to a large military SUV. "Let us drive you home." "Brother," the commander offered. Harris nodded with gratitude. Before entering the vehicle, he looked back at the crowd, at the flags, at the Marines, at the place where he had been insulted but then lifted up higher than ever before. He whispered to himself, "Semper Fi, forever." The Marines roared one more time, "Hoorah!" The ground shook again. Justice had arrived. Respect was restored, but the story wasn't over yet, because the Marines had one more mission before the day would end.